When Will Ferrell left SNL in 2002, he didn't know if his everyman shtick would work in movies, but it did. But who is Will Ferrell anyway? From owning soccer teams to showing off his buns, here's some things you didn't know about him. 5 years after leaving Saturday Night Live and headlining movies, Will Ferrell wasn't completely creatively satisfied. Ferrell's former writing and production partner Adam McKay told Vanity Fair, "Will and I both worked on Saturday Night Live and missed doing sketch." The team connected with producer Chris Kattan, and in 2007 they launched Funny or Die. The site hosted low-budget comedy videos but with a gimmick. If a clip received enough upvotes, it could be featured on the portal's front page. The first video featured on Funny or Die was The Landlord, co-directed by McKay and starring Ferrell as a tenant behind on rent. The clip went viral and established Funny or Die as a comedy destination. More than a video hosting site, it became a development lab for rising stars in television shows. Drunk History, Billy on the Streets, and Between Two Ferns all started out as Funny or Die projects. The site's founders and financial backers sold Funny or Die in 2021 to a new investment group. Ferrell remained with the site as a consultant. Ferrell is objectively one of the biggest stars in Saturday Night Live history.
I drive a Dodge Stratus!
With a number of celebrity and political impressions and recurring characters he contributed to SNL over his 7-year stint, Ferrell was very valuable to the late-night institution, and his paycheck reflected that. At the time, most SNL cast members earned $15,000 per episode. Ferrell was contracted to receive $17,500 per installment, which at the time was the most ever paid to an SNL star. Ferrell didn't just have the most money of the SNL cast, he had the most clout, too. In 2001, the show briefly parted ways with actor Chris Parnell. Ferrell led a contingent to convince producers to bring back the cast member. Parnell said in a tribute montage to Ferrell on his final SNL episode,
"This show fired me. Then they rehired me. First time that ever happened. Will Ferrell made that happen."
Ferrell's time at Saturday Night Live coincided with that of another breakout star from the show, Chris Kattan. They appeared in many sketches together, including the recurring bit where they played dance club creeps that was expanded into the 1998 film Night at the Roxbury. But SNL has long been infamous for cast feuds, and Ferrell and Kattan were headed for conflict. SNL producer Lorne Michaels put the A Night at the Roxbury movie together, and he wanted Amy Heckerling, coming off recent successes like Look Who's Talking and Clueless, to direct. In his memoir, Baby Don't Hurt Me, Kattan alleged that Heckerling made romantic moves on him, and that after he rejected her, she told Michaels she wanted to quit the movie. An irate Michaels ordered Kattan to get involved with Heckerling because the movie studio would only make A Night at the Roxbury if the noted director was involved. Kattan claims he connected physically with Heckerling, who ultimately didn't direct the movie but did help produce it. Kattan wrote, "I had tried to hide my relationship with Amy, not realizing how obvious it had been to everyone else, including Will." Ferrell acted professionally during production, but after filming concluded, he broke off all personal contact. Kattan wrote that Ferrell told him, "So I got all your messages, but I didn't call you back because I didn't want to talk to you. I don't want to be your friend anymore."
I was like, Emilio!
At the peak of his box office powers in the mid-2000s, Ferrell starred in the moderately successful soccer-themed comedy Kicking and Screaming. In addition to making the film, he also invested in 2 soccer teams, becoming part owner of one in the US and another club located in the UK. Los Angeles FC began play in Major League Soccer in 2018. Ferrell was an early joiner and is now a minority stakeholder in the franchise. In 2024, Ferrell bought into the much older team Leeds United of the UK's second-level Championship League. In 2011, Ferrell returned to a recurring role in episodic television for the first time since he left Saturday Night Live for a movie career. He joined the cast of NBC's mega-popular The Office as D'Angelo Vickers, the sexiest new boss of the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company.
If I were shot in the head, I'm pretty sure everything would be fine. I almost welcome it.
Ferrell first appeared on the show during the last run of episodes featuring Steve Carell as Michael Scott, and it was his idea to come on the series. He told the Office Ladies podcast, "I was thinking it'd be just a cameo or whatever. I was up for anything." Producers offered Ferrell 4 episodes instead. However, showing up to the set of a long-running series with a tight-knit cast saying goodbye to a beloved coworker proved tough for Ferrell. He recalled, "Those last shows were emotionally charged, and you guys were all having a moment. I'm like, what am I doing here? I shouldn't be here. I just really felt like an outsider. It's no one's fault." Will Ferrell and Adam McKay were creative partners for more than 2 decades. Both were hired at Saturday Night Live in 1995 where they made sketches together. From there, they made movies like Anchorman, Step Brothers, and The Other Guys. They were also co-principals in Funny or Die in the company Gary Sanchez Productions. But McKay left Funny or Die in 2018, and in 2019, the pair officially shut down the production company as part of an announced professional divorce. While the pair promised the split was civil, Ferrell told The Hollywood Reporter in 2021 that he and McKay had drifted apart in their work. Ferrell wanted to make broad comedies, while McKay preferred to tackle pointed political satire. Ferrell told the outlet, "He wanted growth in a sphere of influence, and I was just like, I don't know, that sounds like a lot that I have to keep track of. At the end of the day, we just have different amounts of bandwidth." McKay revealed that the Gary Sanchez staff had separated into two camps, each supporting one of the creatives. With their relationship already tenuous, McKay recast the leading role of Los Angeles Lakers owner Jerry Buss in his HBO series Winning Time. Ferrell desperately wanted to star, but McKay thought John C. Reilly more closely resembled the real person and gave him the role instead. And he didn't tell Ferrell before he did it. McKay told Vanity Fair, "I should have called him, and I didn't." Every so often, Ferrell pops up in an unlikely place, either on screen or interacting with actual people in the real world, just to get a laugh or to fulfill a comedic impulse. In 2011, he obtained permission from the Pabst Brewing Company to make a series of commercials for its Old Milwaukee brand of beer, completely on his own and at no cost to anyone. Ferrell taped multiple short, barely budgeted ads of himself hanging out in and around Davenport, Iowa. In 2012, the ads aired, but only in and around the Quad Cities of Illinois and Iowa. One featured Ferrell trying and abandoning a poem about beer in Davenport, and another showed him fishing. Ferrell also bought ad time for an Old Milwaukee ad during the Super Bowl, but only in the minuscule TV market of North Platte, Nebraska. Furthermore, after his Funny or Die partners gifted Ferrell a Staples Center security guard uniform, the actor wore it to a Los Angeles Lakers game. He didn't clear it with any Lakers or arena staff, and after spotting retired NBA star Shaquille O'Neal in the crowd, Ferrell tossed him from the venue. Similarly, in 2022, Ferrell crashed a warm-up session at a Golden State Warriors game by taking the court in costume and in character as Jackie Moon, his character from the basketball movie Semi-Pro.
We've got pancake night, clown makeup night. Get a live camel in here and just see what happens.
Ferrell has made quite a few movies about many different sports, including Blades of Glory, Talladega Nights, A Ballad of Ricky Bobby, and Semi-Pro. He's probably drawn to movies about feats of athletic skill and prowess because in real life, Ferrell is a solid and talented competitor. While attending University High School in Irvine, California in the mid-1980s, Ferrell served as the first-string place kicker for the varsity football team. Over 4 years, he made 41 extra points, and in his senior season, Ferrell nailed a record 14 field goals. In adulthood, Ferrell is an accomplished long-distance runner. He completed the 2001 New York City Marathon in just over 5 hours, and weeks later pulled off the Boston Marathon in just under 4 hours. Ferrell also finished the 2002 Stockholm Marathon and the 2013 Los Angeles Half Marathon. For every successful, quotable, and enduringly popular comedy that Will Ferrell has made, there are many more scripts he worked on, developed, or championed that never entered production. While still employed by Saturday Night Live in 1998, Ferrell signed on for what would have been his first leading movie role. In the never-filmed The Whistleblower, Ferrell would have played a guy who realizes his company's goods are defective and finds himself the target of corporate contract killers. Around that time, Ferrell and Adam McKay also wrote a crude and silly screenplay called August Blowout, about a competition among hyper-aggressive used car salesmen. Instead, Paramount Pictures elected to make Dickie Roberts, former child star, but Ferrell and McKay took the most ridiculous and obnoxious elements from the main character Jeff Tanner and blew them out until they got Ron Burgundy for Anchorman.
Hey everyone! Come and see how good I look!
Ferrell also nearly starred as condescending blowhard Ignatius J. Riley in an adaptation of A Confederacy of Dunces, John Kennedy Toole's Pulitzer Prize-winning 1980 comic novel. However, the project never got off the ground. While he's been famous for about 30 years, the tabloids and Hollywood rumor mill have featured exactly 0 scandalous news items about Ferrell's love life and dating history. He's never been romantically linked to anyone besides Vivica Paulin, whom he met in 1991 in an acting class when he was about 24. Ferrell said on the Me-Sci podcast, "It was kind of too much too fast at too young."
We were just friends. We kind of dated, but then we were just friends for 5 years and then kind of circled back to each other.
Ferrell and Paulin got married in 2000 and quickly began building a family together. They'd go on to have 3 sons, Magnus, Matthias, and Axel. While she grew up in the Boston area, Paulin was born in Sweden, and the family still takes semi-regular trips to the Scandinavian country. Ferrell has learned some Swedish in honor of his wife and her cultural background. You might not know it, but Will Ferrell comes from a showbiz family. His father, Roy Lee Ferrell Jr., was a traveling musician and keyboard player for the Righteous Brothers. As Ferrell told News 24, seeing his father's career firsthand made him think twice about pursuing a career in the entertainment industry. After his parents divorced, his father spent a whole summer with him and his brother while their mother headed to Japan. It brought him and his dad closer, but it also made Ferrell realize he didn't want to have to worry about the instability of the entertainment industry. He decided to go into journalism, hoping to become a sports commentator. He hated it though, and when he spoke with his dad, the elder Ferrell gave some advice that probably wasn't too encouraging. He said it was all down to luck, not talent, and that it was fine to give up if things didn't work out. While that might not sound reassuring, it convinced Ferrell to chase his dreams in the entertainment world. No matter how big celebrities become, they all had to start somewhere. Ferrell's start was his audition tape for Saturday Night Live, and you might even recognize one of the sketches. The Get Off the Shed sketch got a few tweaks and ended up actually being performed on the show, but it's undeniably strange seeing the raw performance.
Now get off the shed! Get off the shed! Get off the damn shed!
That sketch was one of a few Ferrell did, and when he talked to the New York Times about the whole process, he said for the first part of the audition, he did a stand-up bit as Ted Kennedy, the Shed sketch, and an impression of former Chicago Cubs announcer Harry Carey. After meeting with Lorne Michaels and being asked to do an entirely new audition, he came up with the idea of offering Michaels $25,000 in fake money and just walking out. But seeing as it wasn't a joking atmosphere, he never did it. Instead, he did the Shed sketch again, a Bill Clinton impression, and another sketch where he played a businessman in his office rolling around on the floor playing with toy cats. Needless to say, Ferrell got the job. Ferrell's George W. Bush is the definitive impression of the former president, so of course everyone wanted to know what Ferrell's political leanings were. When he talked to Elle in 2012, he revealed that while he's a registered Democrat, he considers himself a progressive instead. He told the outlet, "I'm for whoever has the best idea regardless of the party." He then talked about being in favor of instituting a new policy. Every congressman who votes for war is required to send one family member. Ferrell says that will make them think twice about what they're doing. Not only does he liken his political views to that of the country's founding fathers, but he also notes they probably wouldn't get elected in modern America. When GQ talked to Ferrell in 2004, they asked what literally every American had been thinking. Did his impression of George W. Bush help Bush get elected? And how did Ferrell feel about that? He might make a good politician because he didn't really answer the question. However, he did say that he thought of the gig as just one of a number of characters he played, and when Lorne Michaels asked him to reprise the character he'd first done in 1999, he had no idea it would be so popular. He simply said Bush's election made him think some of the traits he'd emphasized, like basic stupidity, are traits that America's totally cool with. In 2017, Jimmy Kimmel asked Bush himself what he thought of Ferrell's impression of him, and it got the former president's stamp of approval. According to Bush, he had dinner with Lorne Michaels one night, and they got into a discussion about words like
strategery.
Michaels credited his writers with coming up with it, but Bush was convinced he'd said the word himself. Now that's a sign of a good impression. Watch enough of his comedy and you'll notice Ferrell is unclothed a lot of the time. However, he told Dazed he doesn't go out of his way to shed his clothes on screen, adding, "It just seems to happen." The Talks asked him about the rumor he had put on weight to get the right context for nudity, and Ferrell said that was never the case either. Ferrell said, "I just kind of have a comedic-looking body, I guess. If anything, I really have to exercise just not to look too fudgy." Elf has become one of those Christmas classics, a movie many of us have to watch to make the season feel complete.
Santa! Oh my God! Santa here? I know him! I know him!
Ferrell could definitely make a sequel, but he says he absolutely won't. There are a few reasons why, and his typical response is something along the lines of looking ridiculous if you try to put those tights on again. But when he talked to The Guardian, he admitted there was more to it than just that. Ferrell said, "I remember asking myself, could I withstand the criticism when it's bad and they say, he did the sequel for the money? I decided I wouldn't be able to." He reportedly turned down a whopping $29 million to do a sequel, but he said he's more interested in maintaining the integrity of his work and protecting the legacy of the original film. Sure, Ferrell's movies make a ton of money, but is he worth the salary he commands? Not according to Forbes, which has put him on its list of Hollywood's most overpaid actors a few times. In 2010, it was Land of the Lost, a big-budget flop that earned him a place at the top of the list. For every dollar he made, his movies brought in only an average of just over $3. And in 2013, he landed the number 3 spot, with Forbes saying that for every dollar in his pocket, his movies averaged $3.50. It's not exactly an honor most actors would like to get, but when Den of Geek asked Ferrell what he thought of it, he called it a badge of honor before pointing out that only a few years before, he was on the lists of the industry's most bankable stars. Even people who don't buy into Ferrell's particular brand of humor have to admit he's pretty much the most normal guy in Hollywood. But there's one person who didn't like him, the late Joan Rivers. The cranky red carpet diva was always expected to be more than a little catty, but when it came to Ferrell, she was downright venomous. According to Rolling Stone, she once said, "You have to be careful of meeting your idols because I met that Will Ferrell and he's an ass." Seriously, Joan? Ferrell explained what happened in a Rolling Stone interview, saying he'd been told to go say hi to her at the Golden Globes. When he walked up to her, she was in mid-conversation with Diane Sawyer and Mike Nichols, and asked him if he knew who he was interrupting. He responded with, "Yes, they're very big, important people." She misinterpreted his joke as something else, and the hate stuck. Certain skits and sketches from Saturday Night Live have taken on lives of their own, and Will Ferrell's More Cowbell is one of those. When Ferrell talked to Rolling Stone about his favorite SNL sketches, he cited that one, largely because it almost didn't happen. It started with Ferrell. He said he came up with the idea while listening to Blue Oyster Cult's Don't Fear the Reaper, which is featured in the sketch, and wondering about the life of the cowbell player. He pitched the sketch at an SNL meeting with Norm Macdonald's help, but the time wasn't right. Lorne Michaels didn't really get the joke, so it went nowhere. The sketch got pushed to the back burner for months, and it wasn't until Christopher Walken signed on to host that Ferrell dug the sketch out and took another crack at it.
I got a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell.
There was something about Walken that made it work, though Ferrell said some people still missed the point. He told Rolling Stone, "It really was about the exuberance of a guy who was given the green light to really express his art." During an appearance on Late Night with Seth Meyers, Ferrell talked about how Lorne Michaels was a favorite target of his pranks, even though he didn't have much of a sense of humor for them. In fact, Michaels often wouldn't even react, like the time Ferrell ran into his office, slammed a random Emmy on his desk, and shouted,
Now is our time.
It went on until his very last show, too. Meyers recounted a time when Ferrell took an old-school typewriter into his last pitch meeting and clacked away on the keys as everyone else pitched. Ferrell went last, and when it was his turn, he read all the notes he'd taken on everyone else's sketches and walked out. It's hard to imagine someone as outgoing as Ferrell failing and expressing himself, but according to what he told Rolling Stone, that's exactly what he did at every SNL pitch session. Every Monday, the cast would get together with Michaels to pitch ideas for that Saturday's show, but Ferrell said he consistently failed at getting any of his ideas across. Sketches wouldn't be written at that point, and he said he was terrible at putting big thoughts together in brief pitches. However, he credited Lorne Michaels for trusting him enough to let him develop those half-baked ideas into full sketches. In Elf, Santa Claus is played by Ed Asner, who had plenty of experience playing the grumpy boss on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. While Ferrell hadn't played an elf before, he had played Santa, and he said it gave him an insight into the second fiddle life of an elf. Chris Kattan played his elf during a 5-week stint at a mall in Pasadena, where Ferrell donned the big white beard and red suit to play Santa himself. He and Kattan were in the sketch comedy group The Groundlings at the time, and Ferrell remembers absolutely no one cared about the elf in the slightest. Ferrell thinks the whole Santa act is a little worn, too. And in 2015, he appeared on The Tonight Show as the new Santa Claus, complete with blonde wig and Bluetooth earpiece. He delivers presents by drone and sits in other people's laps.
This new image will bury the traditional Kris Kringle.
Some actors are willing to suffer for their craft, and Ferrell is one of them, at least when it comes to consuming sweets. A running gag in Elf is Buddy's 4 food groups:
Candy, candy canes, candy corns, and syrup.
Take all that candy, and just the thought is enough to make your teeth hurt. In a 2003 interview with blackfilm.com, Ferrell said he not only ate the sugar, but also suffered all the ill effects you might imagine if you ate like Buddy the Elf. He recalled, "I ingested a lot of sugar in this movie and I didn't get a lot of sleep. I constantly stayed up, but anything for the movie, I'm there. If it takes eating a lot of maple syrup, then I will if that's what the job calls for." If you happen to see Will Ferrell on the street, don't be fooled by the super approachable, down-to-earth persona he projects. Autograph magazine has pretty regularly rated him among the worst autograph signers in Hollywood. Ferrell commented on the dubious honor in a 2008 interview with AV Club, saying that he signs tons of autographs, so he's not sure how he's one of the worst. However, he did add that he taunts and ridicules people who ask. Ferrell told the outlet, "I'm like, how badly do you want this autograph? You say you're my biggest fan, really? Prove it. I'll do things like that. They have to earn it." Lifetime doesn't seem like Will Ferrell's typical choice of partner network, so when an entire saga unfolded in 2015, people didn't know what to think. The whole thing started with reports that Ferrell and Kristen Wiig had been working on a top-secret Lifetime project called A Deadly Adoption. The day after the news broke, the duo announced they were pulling the project because it had leaked. In June, though, billboards advertising the film started showing up, and it became clear they hadn't pulled it after all. Even after it aired, those who saw it seemed to have no clue whether it was supposed to be a serious film, a comedy, or something completely different. Ferrell talked to Deadline about it in 2017, saying not only was it a horrible movie, but that he did the whole thing as a joke. He wanted to make a movie for Lifetime as a complete gag, partnering with another comedian and making fun of all the cliches these movies typically contained. But Wiig had gone on record saying it wasn't a joke at all. When she talked to Vulture in 2015, she said that they had never intended to make a comedy and suggested it had been completely mislabeled. So no one knows, not even the people who were in it.
Out of all of his films, Ferrell reportedly claimed that Anchorman is his favorite, and it's more because of the film's journey than the movie itself. According to The Ringer, he said, It's kind of the Cinderella story of the movie no one wanted to make. The idea of a feature-length script had been kicking around since his SNL days, but the pitch was incredibly different at first. The original survival film concept featured Ron Burgundy crashing a plane full of newsmen into the side of a mountain, then trying to escape a group of orangutans armed with throwing stars. Jimmy Fallon was notorious for breaking character on SNL, but let's be honest, everyone who watches the show hopes to see the actors crack up, and Will Ferrell enjoys it just as much as you do.
It just made us closer as a cast, and it just reminded us and the audience that it's a live television show.
In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, Ferrell admitted the entire point of SNL's Lovers sketch was to make Fallon laugh. It wasn't just overacting and being too affectionate with co-star Rachel Dratch, but it was the, quote, slightly Madonna-esque accent, too.
Nonsense! There is no greater aphrodisiac than the hot tub.
Yes.
It's hot tub, not hot tub.
In 2016, it was announced Ferrell was considering playing President Ronald Reagan in a movie that was hyped as a hilarious political satire. The film was based on the idea that Reagan had actually been suffering from dementia while he was in his second term. After news broke, Reagan's son Michael tweeted, "What an outrage. Alzheimer's is not a joke. It kills. You should be ashamed, all of you." Additionally, the former president's daughter, Patty Davis, wrote an open letter to Ferrell in the Daily Beast. She appealed to him to visit a dementia facility and explain to the patients and families there exactly why Alzheimer's is appropriate for comedic material. Page Six reported Ferrell dropped the project almost immediately, and his decision was praised by both Reagan's children and by the Alzheimer's Foundation of America. When Ferrell hosted an AMA Reddit thread, he acknowledged all the talk about there being an uncanny resemblance between himself and Red Hot Chili Peppers drummer Chad Smith. In 2014, they both appeared on The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon to compete in a drum-off.
Take that, funny man! Oh, looks like Baby learned how to play the drums.
In 2016, the pair organized a massive charity event called the Red Hot Benefit Comedy and Music Show in Quinceañera. And according to Rolling Stone, great fun was had by all. Ferrell says he's had his share of failures, and when he gave the commencement speech to the University of Southern California's class of 2017, he said his first foray into stand-up comedy came with equal parts terror and exhilaration. He added that even now, every day is filled with some fear of failure.
But my fear of failure never approached in magnitude my fear of what if. What if I never tried at all?
Ferrell believes the key is enjoying the journey without becoming too focused on the result. He told The Guardian it's not a matter of being fearless, it's a matter of being ignorant to the possibility of failure, adding, if you know too much, you'll be totally paralyzed. As for Ferrell's final message to the USC graduating class,
I will always love you.